Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining me today. It's Allan Laboucan with the Rocks and Stocks News. And I've got a company here today that's made some news with some remarkably good looking rock. The highlight hole was 20 grams over 33 meters. If you want to put that into gram meter, it's you're looking at over 600 metal factor there. This Ruby Deeps just gets better and better the more drilling they put into it. And I've got Ewan Downey here today to talk about it. Ewan, thanks a lot for joining me again.
Thanks for having me again. Looking forward to talking about gold.
Yeah, high grade gold over thick intersections. I was mentioning to somebody, if anybody knows how hard it is to find something like that, it's you.
Yeah, it's we've been fortunate to have picked up a couple of really good projects in Nevada. The fact that there's not many options for processing refractory ore means that a lot of companies, when they get into deeper sulfide refractory material, have to walk away. Really, Nevada Gold Mines has had a bit of a monopoly there. But when we were in the process of acquiring the Lone Tree facility, looking at these potential sulfide type deposits became a priority. And as you know, Nevada Gold Mines is producing about 3 million ounces a year out of Nevada. The majority of that is refractory sulfide. But as I said, with all of them having the majority of the processing facilities, they had a bit of a monopoly. But when they sold us Lone Tree, or we did the trade for Lone Tree, it really opened up our ability to start expanding in the state. And we truly expect to be a fairly large player in the state in the next couple of years.
Well, there's something like Ruby Deeps and Granite Creek for that matter. I want to talk a lot about Ruby Deeps because that's what you announced today, but the combination of the two, I heard somebody say, well, how are they going to produce this sulfide material? Look at the news releases. They've acquired a facility to do just that, and they're one of only a couple companies in Nevada that have that capacity.
Yeah, it's a pretty unique opportunity. It gives us, in my opinion, a bit of a competitive advantage. We'll be releasing the study towards the end of this quarter, maybe early Q4, on what we're planning to do to start up that facility again. In the interim, we have our processing agreement with Nevada Gold Mines, so we're just starting to ship material for the first blending program. They're going to be processing our ore from Granite Creek, blending it with theirs, and then likely towards the end of Q3, we'll be in a position to start shipping on a daily basis. So that'll start to see our gold production crank up in Q4 of this year. And like you said, with our own facility, we're very aggressively pursuing the advancement of Ruby Deeps. And remember, we have McCove Mine is in construction right now, and it's an 11-gram gold deposit as well. So we feel we're in a pretty good position to grow. Market's really bad right now, so I wouldn't say it's falling on deaf ears, but the market's pretty quiet when it comes to news. But we've got over 50,000 meters of drilling going at Granite Creek and Ruby Hill, and we just feel that we've got so much results coming here in the second half of the year. We might as well start ramping it up, and I'm expecting to see a rebound in the gold price here in the second half, and hopefully with a good attention coming on to our sector with the amount of news we expect to have. We hope to be one of the highlighted companies in a rebound in the market.
Well, on the sentiment side, gold's been getting punished the last week or two, and I mentioned on my recent show the debt's still going through the roof all over the world. They're printing money like it's going out of style, and the inflation is going through the roof. None of those things have changed in the last 10 days. Another thing I mentioned on my recent show, Ewan, is I'm seeing a lot of good stocks out there in the gold space trading at 52-week lows. But what most people are not paying attention to is that they're also trading at 52-week lows in the volume. So that means when I see a lot of companies doing that, that's how bear markets end, and it's also how bull markets end. when you've got low volume, that's an indication that it's ending. And so now you guys got a tremendous news flow. Let's talk about this Ruby Deeps thing, because this is just a remarkably exciting project to me. Put it into a bit of historical context. Like you said, but in the past, when this was getting looked at with a few holes, they weren't looking for sulfide deposits. They were looking for oxide deposits. And that's probably why you were able to get this. And now you guys are expanding it.
Yeah, the Archimedes mine, which is Ruby Hill, was discovered by Homestake. Homestake disappeared about 25 years ago now. So at the time, Homestake was primarily focused on oxide, so easy heap leach projects. And while they were drilling out the Archimedes mine, which we just finished mining, the last of the pit, by the way. So the gold production we're getting out of Ruby Hill is from that pit. But below that pit, they had kind of sporadic drilling on the property, and they were hitting sulfide mineralization. They had some pretty good hits. We're following up on those hits. That's the program we have going right now. And then Barrick acquired Homestake. They mined the Archimedes mine. They drilled a few more holes into the sulfide, but back 15 years ago, sulfides were still not the prevalent source of ore for Barrick, Newmont, Homestake, etc. Most of them were still pursuing easier at surface oxide deposits. So the potential here got really overlooked historically. So when we knew we were in the process of acquiring the autoclave from Nevada Gold Mines, we knew that Cove and Granite Creek weren't kind of big enough to fill that autoclave. So we needed one more project, and Ruby Hill was one that we knew of, had these great intercepts at depth, very little follow-up. We felt it could be a monster deposit, and now we're drilling it out, and it's working out as good as hoped. If you saw my quote in the press release, I've been involved in some pretty significant discoveries and deposit delineations, but this is starting to look like #1 in my career, and it's very exciting times. And every day I look forward to getting an update of how things look, because we've got 4 drills going on the property right now.
Now, you and I have been doing these interviews for a long time. I first started recommending your Wolfden in 2005. Let's be honest, have you ever hit anything like multi-meters of high grade?
Not like this zone. We're constantly, when we're in the heart of Ruby Deep, seeing widths of 20 to 70 meters. And really, most high-grade gold deposits, we're looking for 2 to 5 meter intercepts.
Right.
And so this is kind of remarkable how it's turning out, and why we highlighted today's drilling, because this is the step-out drilling we're doing to the south, and we're expanding the deposit. But what's really exciting, and hopefully you got in the press release, is the fact that in the southern part, we're seeing multiple intercepts. We're actually seeing gold mineralization above the sill, whereas there's this bullwhacker sill, a granite diorite sill. And in the north part, all of the high grade seems to sit below the sill. But as we're moving south, we're finding mineralization above it, which bodes well for increasing the ounces. You know, the secondary hit in today's press release was 22 meters of over 8 grams. So that's not a bad secondary zone. To justifies more follow-up as well.
Well, when I was looking at the cross sections, that's the first thing that stood out to me. We even mentioned it prior to this interview starting, was that it's not just contained in that one rock package. You're getting it all over in several rock packages. So when you go to the south.
Yeah, and we're also, as we develop this, because we are permitting right now to drive the decline from the existing pit into this deposit. And the upper part is what we call the 426 zone that we've also been drilling this year. So the next release will be results from the 426 zone. And the 426 is sort of a vertical fault. So the Ruby Deeps is flat, the 426 comes in vertically. So maybe these vertical faults in 426, and to the south of that is the Bullwhacker fault structure. Where they intersect the Ruby Deeps is maybe where the pathway for the fluids to come up above the sill. That's, you know, one theory right now.
So is
With
it
more drilling, we'll
potential
know.
for multiple mineralizing events? Like you've got the flat lying sill, and then these things are pumping it in at a different time?
Yeah, the 426 zone, we're drilling that out to be part of our resource update as well. It is, as I said, more vertical. And then we're also testing parallel to 426. There's another fault called the Bullwhacker fault that was in the pit. There was a historic intercept in that of really good grade that was never followed up. So we're drilling that right now as well. And if that shows some continuity, we'll have effectively 3 horizons that we're drilling off at this project. And then don't forget that immediately below the pit that we haven't drilled yet is a high-grade polymetallic deposit with grades of up to well over 20% zinc that will be a future target. So this property is pretty remarkable because it has oxide gold, it has refractory underground gold, and we have base metals. And I think the base metal opportunity here has been hugely overlooked. And an adjacent property owner, Paycor, is drilling a polymetallic deposit immediately joining us. So we think that the base metal or the polymetallic opportunity here could be on par with the gold, and it's being just overlooked entirely. So we have a drill working on the polymetallic opportunity as well right now. So I'm hoping I'm on a future show talking about that and why that's so important to the future here.
You know, and that's nothing to sneeze at, because the Paycor folks have one of the guys that was involved with that big discovery that ended up getting bought out of a polymetallic.
Arizona Mining.
Arizona Mining, yeah. What was that bought out for? Like 3 or 4 billion? And that's a zinc kind of discovery. These things can get big.
Yeah, we think the like you said, the polymetallic opportunity here is being vastly overlooked. We are putting some focus on it. Paycor is doing some drilling to the south on polymetallics. So I think that picture will really start to emerge later this year as both of us continue to put out results. And we know that these high-grade polymetallic deposits can be company makers. Like look at LaRonde, they're Agnico. They're historically their best mine is a polymetallic mine. It's mainly a VMS zinc mine with gold credits. And we think, or indications are, that the grades at Ruby Hill are significantly higher than, sorry, than at LaRonde.
Well, and you brought up another, I mean, it's not just that the grades and the thicknesses are remarkable, but this is sitting underneath a pit that you can have easy access to those zones. So you don't have a long development discount window in the Lassonde curve. You've narrowed that down to next to nothing.
Yeah, we're when we drive the decline, like I said, we hope to start driving the decline in likely December of this year. I think by the end of the first quarter of 23, we'll be into the 426 zone. So it's probably 200 meters from the portal to the first zone that we expect to get into. So the development will be very quick. We'll be underground drilling, definition drilling those zones in the first half of next year. And don't forget, we have a CIL plant on the Ruby Hill property that we haven't really factored into our production yet. So if things keep progressing the way they are, we may be restarting that CIL plant sooner than you know.
Wow, it's just you and I mean, I'm blown away by this Ruby Deeps thing. I think it could be, you know, one of the most important new discoveries in Nevada in a long time. You guys got to be over the moon about this.
Yeah, I'd say we are kind of over the moon. You can probably see the smile on my face. We're pretty happy with how things are developing here. We're optimistic that we're on to something really big. I call it, you know, hopefully we're on to a monster. And you just look around Nevada, the the Gold Strike Mine, Gold Quarry, Turquoise Ridge, Cortez, Gold Rush. You know, there's lots of these elephant, so to speak, mines that, and these mines and discoveries in Nevada were resulted in Newmont and Barrick being two of the biggest gold producers in the world. So we're in the right we're in the right field of play to find these type of deposits. We believe we've been pretty strategic in acquiring the right projects that have that kind of world-class deposit opportunity. And Ruby Hill has quickly moved up in my mind to be our #1 project in our portfolio now.
Well, and I can't blame you. I mean, when you get those thick intersections of high grade, that's a big, powerful mineralizing system that's causing that thick intersections of high grade. Those aren't small.
Yeah, it's a huge system, and we tried to explain as much as we could in today's release. We think that we're onto an alteration and mineralizing system on par, as we said, with the major mines. So we look at Cortez, which isn't too far away from here, as being sort of the scale of project that this truly has the opportunity to be. And Cortez has produced, I don't know, tens of millions of ounces so far, and it's got tens of millions of ounces of resources. So we're pretty happy with what we're seeing here in the early stages. We've started drilling exploration. As we mentioned today's release, we've got 5 exploration concepts that we're going to be testing in this year's program. Assuming we have success in those, we will start follow-up right away. I'd say we like what we're seeing in these exploration concept targets already. And like you said, it's a big system. It's a big plumbing system. The mineralization, I don't think, is going to disappear very quickly, and we just have to keep it up with the drill bit. We've drilled over 30 holes this year so far at Ruby Hill, waiting on a lot of assays. The labs are really slow, but we've only released the first 6, so there's a lot of news to come.
And those new ones are going to the south and the north.
Yeah, we're going to the south and the north. We're drilling the 426 zone, and we're drilling other exploration concepts as well. So we've got, we just, because of the success we're seeing both in Ruby Deeps and, you know, in our conceptual exploration targets, we're seeing good alteration that definitely deserves some follow-up. We've already decided to increase the program here. We've added about 25%. We're currently working on bringing in another drill rig to accelerate the drilling, which will mean we'd have 4, 1 RC and 3 core rigs on site. So we're looking to accelerate the growth of this project, and we're going to see a new resource towards the end of the year, early next year. And we're expecting a pretty significant increase in ounces, obviously.
Well, I don't want to put words into your mouth, Ewan, but if you guys are dedicating holes to conceptual targets, when you've got Ruby Deep sitting right there screaming at you to drill, those conceptual targets have to be something significant.
Yeah, we believe there's the opportunity for mineralization similar to 426. So 426 is higher up than Ruby Hill. So as we drive the decline down, if we can find more near surface mineralization, and if that mineralization, hopefully we can find more oxide that we can use our own CIL plant, we'll just increase our ability to produce ounces per year. And when we acquired this property, it was really important to the Blackjack deposit, which isn't yet in resource, but it's a drilled out zone, partially drilled out zone immediately below the pit. Because it was base metals, it was pretty much ignored by Barrick when they owned this. And we're drilling that system now, and we expect it's going to be a very sizable polymetallic deposit at the end of the day. So, and ultimately, we've stated, and in our presentations, you can see that in our conceptual mine design, the yellow part is a Ruby Deeps deposit, but the orange is the base metal. So we do expect to mine both gold and base metals from our decline, not just gold. And so the base metal component is very important to us, and we're drilling we've got one drill right now dedicated to that target.
Well, Ewan, we could talk at length about Ruby Deeps and Ruby Hill, and I think sometimes Granite Creek and your other projects get lost in the mix now. But Granite Creek is nothing to sneeze at. You've got high grade. You've drilled down below the known zone that was mined. You've got a gap zone that you're filling in, and now you've got the South Pacific. It's almost like a big wedge. And as you look deeper into that wedge, you're getting higher grades. So it's like you've got two world-class projects on your hands at the same time.
Yeah. We've got underground drills and surface drills going at Granite Creek. And as before we got online, I told you we've drilled about 80 surface and underground holes so far this year. And there hasn't been a lot of releases. So you'll see a lot of news flow in the second half of this year from our company as the results from our now more than 50,000 meter collective drill program start to really flow in, and we get a better handle of what we're doing at each project, and we'll make sure to continue to update you.
Awesome. Well, on that note, so it looks like you guys got news flow for the foreseeable future, year and a half out. You'll just keep banging out the results.
Yeah, that's what we're intending to do, is just keep in the news. I still think we're not one of the household name companies out there. And I'd like to think by the end of 2022 that a lot of people will be talking about what i-80 is doing.
Well, you and I have said it before, and I'll say it again. I see this as the same thing I saw with American Barrick. Now Barrick Gold followed the same path that you're now on, and maybe you are on a faster growth path.
I'd like to hope so. That's pretty big accolades, but we're
Well,
definitely
you were
production.
there in the 1990s. How many world-class projects did American Barrick have when they first started mining?
I don't think it was until they got Gold Strike that they had any.
And it looks like you've got two. So that's where my optimism lies.
Okay. Thanks for the optimism.
Well, there you go. Ewan, do you got any closing? I mean, I'm sure you could talk about this for hours.
Yeah, I'd say we're having a lot of success. We're a company that's intent on making sure that we stick to our plan to grow our production profile. We believe over the next several years, we will have amongst the small producers the most significant growth profile as we bring each of these operations online, accumulating in 2025, and we expect to start up our autoclave. And I think even though right now the US dollar is strong, even though the record debt and interest is just going to make it hard for them to ever bring that down, the gold price I think is set up for a massive rally. And when we do see that rally, I think that we'll be one of the companies that'll benefit the most from it.
Well, I'm on the same page with you and I look at my sentiment indicators are the price of gold stocks and the volume. And right now, when you can find, I did a show the other day, I think I talked about 15 different companies, and I left about 4 or 5 off of the list, the ones that I could talk about that are trading at 52-week lows on low volume. When you can find so many companies in that category, it tells you that the selling pressure is over and it's ready to go the other way. And I could make the opposite argument for the price of the US dollar. It's doing the opposite. It's starting to top out at the price. The price is topping out and the volume looks like it's ready to roll over. So I think we're ready to see that change of direction for the US dollar and for gold, and especially gold stocks, and especially ones that have such a powerful portfolio as you guys do.
Yeah, well, and gold with the current environment, You know, it's really the only currency that doesn't have any political attachment. It's got no printing press. It's just I think it's a currency that, while Bitcoin was really the star of the day, kind of got forgotten about a bit. But given the currency wars around the world, I think that the price of gold and the ownership of gold is going to become more and more critical.
And you and I have talked about this in the past, and about the head grades going down, the grades and resources going down. That press of printing gold from the ground is getting weaker, and you guys have high quality assets. That's a sort of a perfect storm.
Yeah, I like to think so too. And you have to remember that these big earth moving exercises, like some of these low grade, you know, we see some mines right now around North America, especially some Nevada and Mexican mines that are mining heap leach. Their grades are 0.3, 0.4, 0.5 grams. So to mine 100, 200,000 ounces of these deposits, they're moving massive amounts of rock. And the fuel prices, I'm sure you've seen every time you fill up your gas tank, has gone through the roof. So those are the mines that are going to see the massive cost escalation, because the price of fuel is just going to hit their bottom line fairly hard. Whereas we expect to be mining 8 to 15 gram type material. So we're moving a lot less rock. And that means that hopefully our costs will be a lot lower. And we're a bit less affected by the fuel price than other people may be. And as we set up our mines in the future, particularly we're looking at some point, we're going to put in a new decline at Granite Creek, is instead of using just trucks to bring everything up, is putting in straight ramps where we can put in a conveyor system to bring up the ore. So we even further reduce the amount of fuel we're using. So we're looking at other ways to reduce our use of fossil fuels, but not only because of the reducing the carbon footprint, but because the escalation in prices, how do we use less of this, is, I guess, one way to think about costs.
Wow, low cost, high grade, high margin. Keep that record playing, man.
Yeah, we will.
Awesome. Let me close it off, you, and you've been very kind with your time today, and your enthusiasm is very clear to me.
All right. Thanks for having me on.
Well, folks, I have a lot of confidence in i-80 Gold. I don't throw that comparison around to a young American Barrick very often. In fact, I've been doing reports on junior mining companies since 2005, and I've never used that analogy before. And the reason that I'm using it in this case is that you're seeing thick intersections of high grade. At Ruby Deeps, I think that they have what will become a tremendously important high-grade gold discovery in Nevada that can be quickly mined because they've got this underground ramp. They've also got another world-class project in Granite Creek. So, you know, the truth machine is why I'm making this a comparison to a young Barrick. And I think that this is the kind of stock that, for investors that want gold in their portfolio, this one will be a supercharged asset that will make people a lot of money. They only have a $500 million valuation, and their goals are suggesting that they're going towards a multi-billion-dollar valuation. And that's not based on arm waving, that's based on the drilling and the other assets that they own. Collectively, I think is worth a lot more than the current valuation. So on that note, as always, talk to your financial advisors, do your homework, look at the results, and this story speaks for itself, and it's tremendously undervalued. On that note, have a great day, and we'll talk to you soon.